How many of you would say, my life has gone exactly according to script, just the way I planned it? I mean, if we could go back in time, 5 years, 10 years, and you would just write down, hey, here's kind of the script of how my next couple of seasons in life are going to go. Here's how I think they're going to unfold. Here's my dream. Here's my plan. How many of us would say, amazing, it went right like I planned it? Or do you feel like your lines have been rewritten or are constantly being rewritten? Now, in life, the reason why our lines are rewritten when it comes to the scripts that we read in our plans, there's a number of reasons why they change. And we can all relate to all of these reasons. Sometimes the script of your life changes, and it changes when you mess up. It happens when you sin. I mean, you have a plan, and then you go and blow it, and you're like, yep, I blew that one. That one's on me. I handed myself a new script is what I did there. We all know what it's like to do something dumb, and we regret it, but there's no one to blame but ourselves. We all know what that feels like, but okay, time to read a new script. But sometimes it happens through no fault of your own. Sometimes it happens because of someone else's sin or someone else's failure. Maybe you weren't perfect in marriage, but your spouse cheated on you. Maybe you showed up for work every day, but management handled things poorly, and as a result of their failure, your script changed. For some of us, perhaps many of us, someone directly hurt you. Some of us have been abused, and there's trauma that came along with that. There's lifelong pain that came along with that. And you got a new script for your life with lines that you never, ever wanted to read. Sometimes we get a new script, and it's really nobody's fault. It's just life. It's just the randomness of life. There was an accident. It's nobody's fault, but you just got handed some new lines to read. And you never wanted to read those lines. Or maybe you got sick, or someone you care about deeply got sick, and it's nobody's fault. It just happened. It's what happens in life. Sometimes we get a new script in life because you mess up. Sometimes it's because someone else sins. Sometimes it's just the randomness of this world that we live in. So what do you do when you suddenly realize the lines you wanted to read are never going to come out of your mouth? What do you do when you suddenly realize the dream that you had for the future is never going to come true? How do you respond when you're handed a new script with lines you never wanted to read? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm so glad you're here because this is our reality. This is the world we live in. And if we don't know how to respond with resilience when we're handed a new script to read, we are never going to be able to thrive and flourish as human beings, because part of life on this planet is being able to adapt and recover when life or God or someone else or you hands you a brand new script. And to help us learn how to recover, to learn how to respond with resilience when we're handed a new script, with lines you never wanted to read, is an incredible example in the Bible of a woman by the name of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Now, some church traditions perhaps make a little bit too much of Mary. Our Roman Catholic friends kind of have the Mary market cornered for themselves. But some of us have church traditions that make too little of Mary and don't see her for the phenomenal person that she was, an example that she was for us. Well, today, we're going to look into her life and her background to the Christmas story, for her role in the Christmas story. And in her story, we learn something we can all take away today. How do I respond with strength and wisdom and resilience when I am handed a new script for my life with lines that I never, ever wanted to read? That's what Mary's going to show us today. Now, to get some context for the life of Mary, we're going to have to zoom way out to get some background to her story. And we're not just going to look at like her parents or her grandparents to get some context for her life. We're going to zoom way out to the very first woman who is named in the Bible, a woman by the name of Eve. When God created the world and everything was perfect, and he had Adam and Eve in this world, we're told that Adam and Eve decided God is not trustworthy. We cannot trust God. Instead, we will lean on our own understanding to navigate our way through life. As a result of their lack of trust, they broke a relationship with God through sin, and they directly defied and disobeyed their Creator. Now, depending on what you might know about God, you might have assumptions about how God would respond to his creation who defied him and disobeyed him. You might imagine that God got angry. Well, yes and no. Anger is a response we have when someone you love is hurt or threatened. And God looked at his creation, and he looked at the man and woman whom he loved and he made in his own image, and his relationship with them was threatened. Their ability to flourish and thrive as the humanity he made them to be was instantly destroyed. And I suppose you might say he was angry, but not as much as he was heartbroken that his creation had been contaminated and defiled by sin. So God pursued them. He didn't pursue them like cops chasing a bank robber. He pursued them like a parent chasing a child who is running headlong into traffic. And he pursued them in order to bring them back and bring them near to him again because they wandered away from him. And when he pursued them, what he gave them was a promise. I will solve this problem. I will give you something to make our relationship whole again. But what's interesting is this first promise of gospel, this first promise of good news of God doing something was not made to the woman, Eve, and it was not made to the man, Adam. The first promise of good news for us was a promise made to the devil, who had tempted the man and the woman to sin against God. So God said to the devil, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. I will put a perpetual resentment and hostility between the offspring, the seed, the descendant of the woman, and you. He, this son of the woman, this descendant of the woman, he, devil, will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." That's the first promise of gospel. God says, Satan, this promise is for you. There will be a son of the woman, and you, like a viper, like a snake, will strike his heel and wound him. But with that heel you struck, he will stomp on your head and destroy you. The first promise of Jesus, the first promise of his crucifixion, of redemption through suffering. But as time unfolded, Eve thought perhaps this might be one of my sons, but as she had sons and daughters, she realized none of them are the fulfillment of this promise. And time went on, and people wondered, will there be a seed of the woman who will crush the head of the devil and undo his evil work? Well, along came the prophet Isaiah. He lived about 700 years before the first Christmas came, and he foretold something else about this son of the woman. Here's what he said in Isaiah chapter 7. "Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." Emmanuel means God is with us. God himself will bring the kingdom of heaven down to earth. God will live among us, and he will live with us. And the way you will know that God has come to live with us is simple. The virgin will give birth to a son. Now, the Hebrew word for virgin has a couple of different meanings depending on the context. It can mean literally a virgin, but it can also mean a young maiden. And like so many words, even in English, context gives us the meaning. So the obvious meaning, without any context, that people would have assumed is that a young woman would have a child, because obviously virgins don't have sons. So people waited, and they wondered, when will the son of the woman come? When will the virgin, or when will the young maiden give birth to a son? And then we'll know that God has come to live with us. Now, one of those people wondering and waiting was Mary. Mary grew up in a home where she went to the synagogue every Sabbath day, and she would listen to her rabbi read from the scriptures. And she would hear the rabbi read from the Torah and Genesis and the promise given to the devil. And she would have heard the promise of Isaiah and the foretelling of the young woman or the virgin who would conceive and would bear a son, and then we would know God had come to live with us. And she is watching and she is waiting like so many other people.
Hey everyone, my name is James and I'm on staff here at Hope Church, and I just want to say thank you for checking out that last video. If you found that content helpful, please let us know by hitting that like button, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you get notified every time we go live or post new content. We do live stream our services every Sunday starting at 8:25 Central. We have a growing online community that we would love for you to come and be a part of. And if you have any more questions about us here at Hope Church, be sure to check out the links down below.